Okay, so this one's interesting, right? Brazilian prince pops up on your feed, and suddenly everyone's intrigued. Gotta admit, I get it. Príncipe Luiz de Georginon, championing, like, mental health awareness, environmentalism, not your average royal, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the sources. It's like you rated a digital scrapbook. We've got formal articles, these little snippets from social media, even a mention in some Brazilian lifestyle magazine. Talk about a deep dive.
It's like piecing together a puzzle, right? Which is what
Yeah.
makes this so fascinating. We're not just getting the bullet points on Louise. We're seeing what modern monarchy actually looks like in action.
Exactly. So before we get too deep, for those of us who need a quick refresher on their whole royal lineage, who are the Georginons anyway.
Well, they're interesting. Relatively small dynasties, see, with roots in both Italy and Brazil. And they don't actually hold any official power in Brazil's government today. But their lineage, it goes way back, connected to the big ones, actually. Houses of Bourbon and Habsburg-Lorraine.
Hold on, those names sound familiar.
Think French and Austrian royalty. Centuries of influence, So Louise is carrying a lot of historical baggage, let's say, but in a good way, adds to the intrigue. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's those little details that make all the difference.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Louis, he doesn't exactly scream traditional royal. Yeah, you've got the formal photos, the official events, all that. But then you find out he surfs, considers Florianopolis his happy place, even posted about building sandcastles on the beach as a kid. It's strangely relatable.
It is, and that's what makes this deep dive so compelling, because we're not just looking at who he is, but what he values. And that's where things get really interesting. For example, did you see that article? The one with him having dinner with Eufragida Teixeira-Lete?
Wait, the Brazilian investor?
Yes.
That was intriguing.
She's a fascinating figure, a total trailblazer in finance. And for Louise to be engaging with someone like that suggests he's looking beyond, the usual circles for inspiration, clearly interested in innovation, people who challenge the status quo.
It's like he's creating his own definition of what it means to be a prince in the 21st century. And a big part of that, it seems to be action, not just talk. This isn't just like a PR campaign. He's out there trying to make a difference. And speaking of action, can we talk about his military service for a sec? I mean, I knew he'd done some stuff, but then I read he actually trained alongside other soldiers, and I was like, whoa. That's not exactly how most royalty roll, is it?
It's definitely not typical, and it speaks to, I think, a deeper commitment to service that we see in a lot of Louise's story. He didn't just want the honorary title or photo op. He wanted to actually get in there, understand it firsthand.
Yeah, there's that quote from one of the articles, something like, oh, right, he said, within these 7 months of instruction, we have undergone various instructions and lectures, which have equipped us with diverse learning and knowledge. Doesn't sound like a walk in the park.
Exactly. And that commitment to service, it goes beyond just his own experience, too. The Order of the Purple Lion, for instance.
Oh, right. He established that whole thing.
Yeah.
At first, I thought, another royal order? Okay. But this one's different.
Totally. He chose to award it specifically to, get this, his military instructors, recognizing their dedication, the sacrifices they make. I mean, how often do you see that kind of acknowledgement?
Exactly. And that's not the only cause he's putting his weight behind. Mental health awareness, environmental protection. He even talks about a more inclusive vision for Brazil, which is huge.
It's like he's reframing what it means to have a platform, He's not just inheriting influence, he's directing it. And that ties right back into his whole approach to monarchy. It's not about shying away from tradition, but using it for progress.
I like that. So do you remember any more of those quotes you mentioned?
Oh, yeah. In one article, he was talking about how, and I quote, the modern monarchy plays a significant role in society, serving as a symbol of unity and continuity. But then he immediately goes on to say, monarchs can lead by example, adopting sustainable practices in their own residences and properties, specifically bringing up climate change. He's bridging that gap, you see, between legacy and this urgent need for change.
It's pretty cool when you think about it. Monarchies, we usually picture them stuck in the past, right?
Yeah.
But Louise is kind of flipping the script. And it's not just him either. It's like a whole generational shift we're seeing. It really makes you think, is this what the future of leadership looks like? Not about holding all the power, but using whatever influence you have to make things happen.
Exactly. And what's interesting is Louise has even talked about this whole generational thing, right? He sees young people today and he gets it. They want a good quality of life, jobs that actually mean something. It's not all about, being the richest person in the room. Remember that quote?
Oh, yeah, I think I've got it pulled up here somewhere.
Something like, my generation is viewed with a very extreme lens, in my opinion. A generation that values quality of life more than selling their lives solely for the sake of building assets.
Yeah, that's the one. I remember highlighting that. Powerful stuff.
Hmm.
And honestly, it's kind of refreshing, right, to see someone with, well, let's face it, a pretty privileged background still acknowledging those values.
Absolutely. And that's what gets me so jazzed about Louise's story. It's unexpected. Like, you wouldn't necessarily think Brazilian prince and go, oh, yeah, social change pioneer. It makes you question those assumptions we all carry around,
Hmm.
about who can lead, what it even looks like.
Right. And it makes you wonder, where does this leave something like, I don't know, the whole idea of monarchy then?
Yeah.
Is it becoming less about like actual ruling power and more about influence, setting an example?
100%. And, it's funny because in a way that might be even more powerful, right? If you're inspiring people to act because they want to, not because you're forcing them to. Anyway, food for thought.
So as we kind of wrap up this whole deep dive on Príncipe Luiz de Georginon, what's the one thing that really stuck with you? What do you hope our listeners take away from all this?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's that reminder that tradition and innovation, they're not opposites. Like, Louise can embrace his family's whole legacy, right? But he's also not afraid to forge his own path. It shows that anyone, even someone who seems old school on the surface, can still push for positive change.
I like that. It's a good message for all of us. We can honor where we come from while still creating something new. And hey, who knows? Maybe there are other hidden figures out there, just like Louise, quietly changing the world in their own way. That's something to think about, right?